Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 14 of Uncanny X-Men From the Ashes, written by Gail Simone and art by Andre Bresson. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, up to this point, the X-Men have made Haven House in Louisiana their new home. There, they have been mentoring a group of young mutants nicknamed the Outliers. Led by Death Dream, the Outliers discovered a mysterious graveyard near to Haven House that is tied to a mutant from the distant past. They also discovered the presence of the monstrous Man-Thing. Meanwhile, the dragon Sidurang whisked Gambit away to the Savage Land. Once there, Sidurang proposed a change to their earlier agreement. Gambit can surrender the eye he stole or continue to keep it. But Sidurang warned Gambit that the mystical artifact comes with a terrible price, an eventual hunger for human flesh. So with that said, this issue opens back in the distant past again with Henry sitting on a colored-only bench with her mother's remains, as a man walked up to her and introduced himself as George as he flashed his hat with the M inside it. And then he followed up his introduction by saying, "My uncle is Porter, he said to treat you right and get you where you're going." And once Henry saw the M, she replied with, "Very well then, I shall be delighted to accept your kind offer." So as the two started to make their way to George's truck, the two members from the service just watched on in the distance. And as they watched, Andrew told Miller, "We'll follow, don't worry, they won't spot us." And then Miller replied by saying, "Andrew, the weight of the worries I have on my shoulders would crush your foolish spine. It is my duty as a sentinel of our purity. Be useful for once and fetch the car." So as the two service members followed in the distance, George offered to take Henry's mother's remains and place it in the trunk, but given the nature of Henry's trip, she stated that she prefers to keep it on her person. And just like that, Miller told Andrew to listen up. That girl could be one of them, a Johnny Devil or a Moonflyer, so if he sees anything unnatural, then Andrew should take no chances and shoot them both. Following that, on the next page, this story picks up where the last issue left off with Death Dream saying, "Don't worry, he's not evil, the Man-Thing is just guarding the sitting room. Like a basset hound really, only he will melt your face off if you show any fear. Other than that, he's just a big good doggy." And then Death Dream proved it by picking up a bone and telling Man-Thing to fetch. Following that, Death Dream went on to state, "My name means something, I dreamed the most awful stuff, like an autopsy." And then he took the femur and pointed and continued to say, "There's a room on the other side, but you have to be like us to open it. He's here to guard it, and for him to let you in, you have to tell him you're a mutant. Now there's also someone in the room, and she will have answers to almost any question. But you also have to make sure you show no fear when talking with Man-Thing." So of course, Ransom was the first one up and he was not afraid. And as he stood before Man-Thing, he said, "I'm Valentine Correa, Ransom, I take energy, pretty much any energy, and use it in my cells, mostly my fists. So the harder I get hit, the harder I hit back." And after Ransom was done, Death Dream went up next and stated, "I change my state from living to dead and back at will. I also dream of the future, and I make the spirits of the dead do my bidding." Then Jitter went on to say, "For 1 minute, I can be the best in the world at any skill and any talent." And finally, Calico stated, "I have a special bond with my horse Ember. I can give us powers, whatever I can imagine." So with that done, everyone was allowed through, with the exception of Calico. Because apparently, Calico wasn't telling the truth about something that Man-Thing could sense. So like a good friend, Jitter came to her side and reassured Calico that they are on her side. "And it's okay if you tell us what you're hiding." And that's when Calico revealed the truth by saying, "My horse, my real horse, died in the fire. My only friend, he's dead, and I don't know what that thing outside is." So with that out in the open, Ransom asked why Death Dream didn't tell Calico that her horse wasn't alive, to which he answered by saying, "I know I don't have any feelings, but I know what they are. And I know it would make her sad." Now this was good enough for Ransom as he took his friend's hand. So with Calico coming clean and speaking the truth, she was now permitted to move forward into the dark room, and as they walked, a voice from within said, "Hello children, come inside and get your answers. Oh, and children, you can be afraid now." So with that said, we then transition over to the Savage Land with Gambit sitting back as Sidurang ate the dinosaur. And as he ate, Gambit's narration said, "If you ever get a chance to see a dragon eat a dinosaur, I won't say it's nice, but it is definitely something." So with that express, Sidurang started to speak and said, "I've been wondering, you are human in most ways that matter, eminently damageable. Why are you not afraid?" To that, Gambit replied by saying, "Well, people have taken a look at me and ran when they saw my eyes. Not a nice feeling. I kinda want to not do that to others." And once Sidurang picked his head up, Gambit asked if he was full, which prompted Saduring to say, "Yes, do you know the real reason these beasts went extinct? It was because dragons found them so succulent." And then he went on to say, "I am giving you a chance to avoid a terrible fate, madness and cannibalism. Will you surrender the left eye?" And after a brief moment, Gambit answered by saying, respectfully, "No, I think I will hold on to it for now." So with that answer given, Saduring laid down his wing and replied with, "Of course, let's get you home to your future supper." With the two heading back to Haven, out of nowhere, a fist came crashing out of the sky, and Rogue struck Saduring right in the face as she shouted for him to let go of her husband. With that hit, Gambit went flying off the dragon's back, and with acrobatic skills, somehow, he landed gracefully onto the ground. And as he kneeled there, Gambit narrated, "Oh, this ain't gonna be sweet." So as Rogue squared off with the dragon, Saduring warned her to stand down, but Rogue wasn't trying to hear it. And during the next few pages, the two fought it out in the sky above. And just as Rogue thought she was going to win, Saduring stated, "Female, by the frosted peaks of Jotunheim, I will never understand them. You forget who is Lord of the Sky, and you have tried Saduring's patience." And with a direct hit of Saduring's beam of ice, Rogue was frozen right in mid-flight. So with the battle over, Saduring once again turned to Gambit and offered one more time to take the eye off of his hands before it was too late. To which, once again, Gambit turned him down. Following that, Saduring turned to Jubilee once he noticed she was crying and asked what was wrong with her. To which, Jubilee responded by saying, "You remind me of someone." And after a brief sniff, Saduring replied by saying, "Yes, he misses you, go see him." And with that said, Saduring took off. With the dragon gone, everyone stood shocked as they asked Remy if the dragon had just said that he would one day eat them. To which Gambit answered nonchalantly and said, "Yeah, but more importantly, does anyone know how to defrost his wife?" So as Wolverine went out to help Gambit and Rogue, we then jump back to Henry's journey in the past. And when we get there, we then see Miller following Henry and George about 2 hours outside of the main city down gravel roads. And once the two reached the end, the service members exited their vehicle and held the two at gunpoint. And in a blink of an eye, George jumped in front of Henry just to get shot before her. So with his sacrifice laid bare, Henry's eyes started to glow red as she shouted, "Mr. Miller, I want to show you something. In a manner you will understand. I want to show you why you call us abhorrent." And on the next page, we then see Henry's power on full display as she summons gigantic stone golems, as she herself takes on a form of stone as well. And during Henry's righteous revenge, her narration stated, "I hear bones and metal shatter, and for a moment, I am nauseated beyond vengeful. And then I remember poor George, dying because he was kind. Dying because he was decent. And I find myself getting rather affronted all over again." So with Henry's revenge being carried out, we then jump back to the Outliers. And when we get there, Death Dream stated, "Ever since I first went out on my own, I felt like a pull towards Haven House." But see, Death Dream wasn't the only one to feel it, for they all did. Now at first, they thought it was Sarah Gaunt who called to them, but they were only partially right, for the voice in the shadows spoke and said, "The hag, yes, she called to you, but it was we who drew you here. Past this door is a city of the dead, and every lost soul in it has caused a mutant's death." Now this prompted Death Dream to ask, "Did you summon us for a reason?" With that question out there, the voice answered with, "Someone needs to guard the door, and I am godawful tired." At that moment, Ransom stepped up and said, "You can't have him, because he is with us." But that was of no concern to the voice, because she replied with, "It needn't be him, he was just the most obvious choice. It can be any of you. I am the guardian of the penumbra, but you may call me Lady Henrietta." And with that said, this issue of Uncanny X-Men comes to an end with Henry standing before the Outliers in this dark chamber. Now down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.